Greetings, law-abiding viewers. I'm Daniel Butler, and this is America's Dumbest Criminals.
On this episode of America's Dumbest Criminals, Dial-A-Narc.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, who's this?
You only live vice.
Not a bad deal, huh?
Scales on the roof.
What do you call this?
Second time around. Baste Not, what not.
Who threw that turkey at me?
And out on a limb. On America's Dumbest Criminals. And now, here's your host, Daniel Butler.
Going to an ATM to get money has become yet another necessary chore, like doing laundry, washing the dog, and mowing the lawn. Wouldn't it be nice, though, if we had an ATM right in our own home?
Well, these three cheese wizards gave it the old dumb criminal try. They immediately spray painted the glass over the camera lens before they got started. But they didn't notice that they had knocked that very glass off while trying to pry the machine from the wall. The camera was able to capture their bungled bank job, complete with flattering close-ups of their frustrated faces as they attempted, without success, to dislodge the concrete cash cow from its corner by attaching a chain to the bumper of their very photogenic automobile. And like the movie Face Off, the boys only managed to get away with the face of the helpless ATM. And in return, it kept their faces on tape for the police to view a few minutes later. So long.
Most of the time, when the Missouri police respond to the holdup of a liquor store, they don't expect to get much more than a description of the robber. In this particular instance, though, they even got his name and address.
Man, give me all the money. Hey,
No, push it.
give me all the money now.
Do it. No, hey, calm down, man.
Get it now.
Pull your knife out. Where you go?
You see, when they questioned the victim as to how he came to know the criminal's name and address, he promptly told them, oh, he used to work at this liquor store. The saying, don't dirty your own doorstep, obviously only applies to clever criminals. By the way, this dunce was picked up at his home where he was sitting at the kitchen table counting the stolen cash. Go figure. Usually when you dial the wrong number, it's no big deal, right? Oops, sorry, wrong number. The worst thing is you call them right back, and then they get a little ticked off. But that's just normal people, wrong numbers. When a dumb criminal dials one, he dials a whopper.
It all started when a drug dealer named Wayne called what he thought was the pager of his supplier.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, who's this?
Hey, I need a quarter pint of good stuff.
Yes, Wayne not only didn't get his drug supplier, he also dumb-lucked out and called Detective Jim Porter of the Bend, Oregon Narcotics Division. Of course, Porter knew all the drug lingo, and since Wayne didn't recognize his voice, he was able to set up a sale, telling the buyer that he wasn't well and would send his nephew instead.
Hey, what's up? You got the right stuff, man?
Yeah, Wayne, I got the right stuff. Problem is, you got the wrong number. You're under arrest.
You crazy? I've been doing business for you for 6 months, and what's up with that now?
It took 3 hours to convince the push-button pothead that he had gotten the wrong number. And when Detective Porter realized what digits had been switched, he was also able to arrest Wayne's actual supplier. Go figure.
Hey, dudes, talk about a bad connection. Bummer. For an undercover police officer, it's hard to do a return engagement after an arrest has been made. But with dumb criminals around, you can always try for an encore.
Detective Sergeant Sean Matheny of Akron, Ohio, was working undercover for the Vice Unit when he saw a prostitute he'd arrested for solicitation just 2 months earlier. Maybe she liked his familiar face, but Matheny soon had grounds for yet another arrest.
Not a bad deal, huh? Listen, I need to ask you a favor. When we're done, could you drop me at the county jail if you could?
Believe it or not, the woman was going to serve her sentence from the last arrest.
I tell you what, why don't we just go now? You're under arrest. You know, I'm really offended you don't remember me from my last date. Same bracelets, too.
Yes, she was once, vice, 2 times a lady of the night. We need your help on this next story because it is unconfirmed. If you are a witness to this crime, please contact us immediately. The man driving the expensive black Mercedes has the gnawing feeling that he had forgotten something when he left his house.
He was still trying to think of what it was when a rookie officer pulled him over.
Is there a problem, officer?
Yes, there's a problem. I think that you have a controlled substance in your vehicle.
That's crazy. I don't know. What proof do you have?
Well, this scale here, it looks like a measuring scale.
That's not mine.
Sir, why don't you step out of the car?
A subsequent search of the man's vehicle revealed 36 one-ounce baggies of cocaine.
What do you call this?
That's not mine. That doesn't belong to me, sir.
Well, you're the one driving this car, and the scale was sitting on top of the motor vehicle.
Sir, I can't say anything now.
What started out as a good deed ended up in the arrest of a local drug kingpin that the police had been searching for months. What are the odds?
You have the right to remain seated.
And now, Crimes of the Week with Daniel Butler and Beaumont Bacon.
Welcome to another edition of
Crimes of the Week.
I'm Daniel Butler, and this is Beaumont Bacon. You know, our first story highlights a car, a bar, and a dummy who didn't get far.
That rhymed.
What it did.
That was pretty.
While on patrol, two officers on foot patrol spotted a suspicious-looking car. It was suspicious because the front window was broken out. Upon further inspection, they realized that the steering column had been jimmied. Even before they could run the tag number, though, a man approached the car and opened the front door. The police asked, "Sir, is this your vehicle?" "Yes, it is," he replied. The officer responded with, "Well, we have reason to believe this car is stolen." At which point the man openly confessed, "Okay, you got me, I stole it."
Just like that.
Immediately.
I did it, me.
As it turned out, the man had indeed stolen the car from a house 2 doors down.
It wasn't very far.
No, apparently our parched perpetrator had stolen the vehicle and driven all of 25 yards before he spotted a tavern and decided to wet his wrongdoing whistle.
I do that if I see a beauty parlor. I just have to stop and just go get a manicure all of a sudden.
You gotta keep those fluids going.
I guess so. Speaking of coming up short, though, in Nebraska, listen to this one. Police were in hot pursuit of an armed bank robber when he suddenly stopped. This robber just stopped and he checked into a motel only 1 mile from the state line. Now, of course, he was apprehended immediately. The police were right on him, but they had to ask him, "Excuse me, dummy, why did you stop?"
He needed a nap.
He needed, I guess so. All that criming, I guess. So he explained to the police that I can't stop and I can't cross the state line. That would be a violation of my parole. That's what he said. I know,
Logic.
it's dumb.
Once
Logic.
again. But how about violating the laws of physics?
That's a little bit harder.
Well, but their plan was simple enough. Break into the steel and wire manufacturer, back their heavy-duty pickup truck up to the loading dock,
Right there.
roll the huge spool of copper wire worth over $40,000 onto the back of the pickup truck, and drive away.
Sounds like a decent thing. Not
It's
decent.
a happening thing.
Yeah, it was a
but
happening thing.
everything went as planned until the 10-ton spool of copper landed in the bed of the half-ton pickup truck, collapsing it under its weight. 1,000-pound pickup truck used to cart away 20,000 pounds of copper. Do the math, okay? Needless to say, with all the shocks broken and the 4 tires flattened, their getaway was impossible. The only copper these two dummies left with was the arresting officer. Get
That
it?
was funny.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
very good.
Thank you.
It sounds like a case of two goofballs not worth their weight in gold on
Or-
this story, Daniel.
or copper.
Well, here's a story about a California counterfeiter that we just had to check him out. And that his plan was flawless. A man with printing experience, he published his own phony checks drawn on a phony bank account. Now, the workmanship was perfect. It was foolproof, except that this fraud had printed his real name and address on the checks. That's what he did. Now, when the first check of many, of course, bounced, the man was easily found and arrested.
Okay. Small
There you go.
mistake.
Little bitty one.
mistake.
Butthead.
Let's hope he didn't try and write the check to post bail for that.
I think he did, and thank you for remembering to bring that up. He did.
He was right back.
He was right back where they found him.
All righty, it's time now to look at our video of the week. A small Dallas bank called investigator Bill McDonald 2 days after a robbery, dead certain that they had the suspect in their office again.
Yeah, I'd like to make a deposit, please. What are you looking at?
It wasn't so much his build or voice that gave him away as it was the ink spots.
That's a musical group from the
it wasn't-
30s or something.
Yeah, but he didn't have 4 guys with him. It seems that the die pack, in the bag of money that he had stolen had gone off, and our oblivious oddball's face, hand, hairs, and his hot cash were speckled with the telltale die. For the officer, it was clearly a case of connecting the dots.
And it made a pretty picture of the Liberty Bell, I heard.
Made his mugshot.
It made his mugshot,
Formed
that's
a
right.
mugshot is what it
1,
did.
2, 3, 4,
That's
5.
me.
That's me, and that's
Yeah.
how many years I'll be spending in jail. I didn't teach him to clean up his act. There one.
At least visit the laundromat. He was Inky until proven guilty, and our dirty dummy wound up first in the crime blotter. And then where else but the state pen?
The earlier one was better.
I think I should have stopped.
I think you were
Way
ahead.
back there.
Way back there.
Way back up there.
Till next week, Daniel.
So long. A little friendly warning to those dumb criminals thinking about breaking into a van. The contents may be under pressure. A lot of pressure.
LAPD officer David Barnett and his partner were in an unmarked van working overtime, staking out a murder suspect in a bad part of town. While Barnett and his partner waited, two less dangerous but much dumber criminals thought the van looked like a good score. Not wanting to ruin their stakeout, the officers laid low while the vandals poked around. Finally, they used a screwdriver and broke into the van. When one of them opened the door, poof, there were the cops.
Whoa! Police, hold it! Oh, damn! Wow, police! Oh, damn! Jesus!
Barnett and his partner flashed 2 guns and 2 badges in the bad guy's face before you could say, "Fantastic."
Smart people know that you should never drink and drive. And if you've had a drink, you should always have a designated driver. However, these dumb criminals obviously had their own interpretation of the law.
Oh, look at this guy going over the line.
An officer noticed a car recklessly drive by him. He immediately pursued the vehicle. He saw the car suddenly stop ahead of him.
Well, he's going to park.
And an obviously drunken man got out of the car.
Well, we're parked. What are we going to do now?
An equally sloshed female passenger comes around and takes his place at the wheel.
Oh, no. Well, she's going to drive away? I don't think so.
The officer finally pulls them over and gives them both sobriety tests.
You can't have these lights on. Hold it right there, lady.
The snockered woman felt that her friend was in no condition to drive and insisted that he let her take over. As it turned out, her condition was no better, and the officer was able to get 2 DUIs for the price of 1. Everybody loves a bargain, even the cops.
Coming up next on America's Dumbest Criminals, hanging around.
Hey, you dropped all your stuff here.
Sock it to me. And out on a limb.
Go back to the couch and assume the position.
Fink, rat, stool pigeon, just some of the colorful names the criminals call the witnesses who testify against them. But for the brainless boob you're about to meet, he could only use those words on himself. Brace yourself for sheer stupidity as we take a trip to court.
A Los Angeles man was standing trial for the possession and sale of narcotics.
Sir, do you recognize anyone in this room? And if so, do you recognize the person that sold you the narcotics?
It was me.
Yep. It turns out the biggest rat was the big cheese himself. The brainless tattletale was charged with the possession and selling of narcotics. But shh, don't tell anyone. You know, the turkey was almost our national bird. And it's still a great symbol of Thanksgiving. And yes, we all have lots to be thankful for. But in our next story, the dumb criminal would have been more thankful if the turkey had acted like stuffing and stayed put.
As you can see, it was a pretty slow evening on the beat at Scotland Foods for store detective Mary Ann. Then she noticed a shady lady near the frozen foods doing a strange sort of duck walk. Mary Ann made note of the woman but wasn't too concerned. But then all of a sudden, some decidedly foul play occurred. Dropping like the ball on New Year's Eve, a frozen turkey flew from the woman's flowing dress.
Who threw that turkey at me? It was you. You did it, didn't you?
The real turkey flinger was never found, but the woman got her wishbone and wasn't arrested either. You know, it's important to wear sensible clothes to work. A clean, pressed shirt, maybe a tie. Comfortable shoes and a pair of pants that won't interfere with your job. This dumb thief in Mission Viejo, California, got hung up on one of those rules.
Officer Steve Kehoe was responding to a burglary call at a residence. He pulled up and met the frantic neighbor waiting in the front. He was told the suspect was in the backyard. He took a deep breath and prepared himself for a long pursuit. However, he wasn't prepared for what he was about to find.
Let me see your other hand, buddy.
What are you talking about, man? Help!
Hey, you dropped all your stuff here.
Various household items were strewn around by the back fence, and above them was our horizontally challenged crook, hanging around on the fence. Seems he couldn't get himself upright and hadn't thought to simply unfasten his pants and drop out of them. With all the blood rushing into his empty head, it was probably hard to think straight.
This bungling bank robber got a little more color than the green he had bargained for on a job he pulled in a Philadelphia suburb. The security die pack exploded during the heist, leaving him with thousands of dollars worth of unusable cash.
Thinking he could clean it up in bulk, the red-handed robber washed his very dirty laundry in public. However, an employee noticed the stained simoleons and notified an off-duty police officer who was in the area. An arrest was quickly made.
Yeah, but his money was still in the spin cycle, and he was taken to the local jail to soak in his cell overnight.
If I were you, I'd drop the remote now.
Officer Cliff Tylen recounts a story about a woman who gave a too many details about a fight with her boyfriend.
I went to a domestic violence call, and when we got there, it was apparent the boyfriend had assaulted the girlfriend, and the other officer was questioning her about what had happened, and she was telling him he had punched her in the face. And the officer goes, well, how did he do it? Trying to get the description of how he did it. And she says, I'll show you. And she hauled off and nailed my partner right in the face. And I saw him go reeling backwards, and we're kind of both in shock. And as I got her handcuffed, she says, well, don't you want to hear what else, happened? And I said, we'll get that after you're done being booked.
Now, generally, it's a wise thing to be a man of your word. But when it comes to making good on promises of illegal acts to come, that's best left to the experts in the field. America's dumbest criminals.
An example. Here's the true story of a bozo of real integrity down in Prattville, Alabama. The man, who wasn't armed with a gun or much brains to begin with, tried to rob the store once, but was rudely interrupted by some real customers.
This is a robbery. Give me the money from the safe. I'll be back. Have the money ready after these people leave.
The confused clerk called 911 just in case this joker was serious about his encore, and sure enough, he was.
You know what, sure. Freeze. Drop the knife. Toss the knife.
But this time, the police were waiting for him, and the false start robber was arrested.
Boy, I'm never coming back here again.
A lesson learned a bit too late. Here's a shady story about a burglar who tried to elude the police by jumping out of a window into a nearby tree. But, as Newton proved, what goes up?
You can see a variety of officers trying to shake the son of a birch from the ground below. He kept leaping from limb to limb until finally Mother Nature extended a hand. The nut landed in a pile at the officer's feet, where they quickly raked him up and pedaled him off to jail.
Let's just leave it at that. That's all for this week. I'm Daniel Butler saying, remember, there's no right way to do a wrong thing. We'll see you next week on America's Dumbest Criminals.
Don't forget to watch for these big, dumb stories on next week's episode of America's Dumbest Criminals.
Yeah, I'm not doing anything. Just waiting on the bus.
2 lame liars in asinine alibi. A chimney creep in Santa Claus. A dangling dummy in swinging single. Diamonds are a kid's best friend.
It's not real diamonds. Take a look at them.
Well, I believe they are.
These stories and more next week on America's Dumbest Criminals.
Life in the dumb lane.
Beaumont, B-A-U-E-M-E-N-T, Beaumont.
It's that heavy, incredible, edible egg. I thought you said this is supposed to be funny.
God's little irony.
And wasn't arrested either. What did I just say? I haven't a clue. Who was the wishbone? I don't know.
Oh, I feel like Ivana Trump today.
Okay, 3.
I feel like Linda Hamilton, Pierce Brosnan.
Okay, I think I got it. Red light.
You were told.
Okay, camera. Speaking of fumes.
I know, I hate it when
Canned
I'm
laughter.
live.
Now, I've never read through any of this.
Just that first read through it comes out like a professional, I'm sorry.
Ramble,
Ramble, ramble, ramble. Keep them doggies camels.